And we are live in more than one way. As I've been talking about the last, 2 episodes, the website is coming. And now officially, the website is live. So if you could go check that out. Got a little background kind of stuff about myself. It's got the shop on there with all the merch. And I am pretty stoked on the website itself and also the domain name. And the domain name is www.livingforaliving.live. Technically, it's like .live because you can get livingforaliving.com was taken, and I would have had to pay a lot of money for it. But they have technically it's live, but the beautiful thing about the English language is live and live are the same fucking word. So the way I'm going to pronounce it is livingforaliving.live. And that's pretty sick to me.
Living for a living, baby. How you doing?
I'm super stoked on the website. My boy Mati, which kind of transitioning into somewhat of a sponsorship, which going forward, the podcast will be occasionally sponsored by my guy Mati's company, Orion. And man, he did an awesome job with the website. Super easy to work with. You know, I'd send him my ideas, send him little corrections here and there, let him do his little creative thing because that's what he does is build websites. And so he knows it a little bit better than me at times. Left it up into his hands. And then if there were ever any little changes, I'd say, hey man, maybe this or that. And he'd send it back. How's that? Money, dude. So I was super pleased with that. Super fun to work with and super easy. So if you're looking to build a website for whatever, he does all kinds of stuff. Give my guy a call. I got to get I'll put his contact information in the bio. I don't have it on me right now. We've been talking about the sponsorship, but I don't have it fully set up right now. That's kind of the style of this, is it's all real. It's like I've been going over to his house. He's been coming over to my house. He's a fan of the podcast. And that's how it all blossomed. Randomly ran into him down by the harbor about 4 or 5 months ago. Well, something like that. And you never know what's going to come from a meeting. And that's why we talk to strangers, which is also a piece of merch. So check that out. Also got that little logo brand. Got it in white and black. Got the denim colors. I got the Trippin' logo also, which is probably going to get me in trouble, but I think it's fucking sick. And it's kind of been a thing I've created online and stealing something from here and putting something here and then creating it my own, making my own colors. And got the Living for a Living piece. Normal is an insult piece. Snapbacks. 5-panel, which the 5-panel is dope. Snapback is pretty dope too. I'll be honest, haven't ordered one yet. I got one coming in a week or two, so I'll probably be wearing that next episode. And yeah, it's a good spot for all the content. Can get the Spotify there, can get all the YouTube stuff there. Eventually I'm going to have a blog on there. Get back to writing. I used to always do like long Instagram captions with my pictures. And ever since I've started talking on here, I kind of am able to get like my ideas out. Instagram captions before the podcast kind of used to be my little blog or my podcast, little therapeutic way to express myself. But I miss writing, and I think it's just a different form and allows me to express myself in different ways. And also in the future, I kind of have some ideas for a book or a screenplay or screenwrite. And so I just want to get back in the habit of writing. So that's where the website will be. Got a little It's every picture on there is something I've taken or someone has taken of me. It's no stock footage, nothing generic, all real shit. So I'm super proud of it. The website's fucking awesome. It came out way better than I ever imagined. And it's cool that this is just the first step in knowing that it can continually grow. And so with that, I'll also have space for some ad space. As I've been mentioning, I'm trying to make this into football is what I get paid to do right now. And this podcast and merch and brand stuff is what I do for fun over the next 5 to 10 years or 2 to 10 years. I don't know how long. I'd like to maybe flip that thing. So if you're out there listening and you want to sponsor the podcast or get something on an ad on the website, which I can now say that, I'm open to that. And yeah, I think that's it for right now. Moving on, I just came back. I'm drinking a beer tonight. It's Tuesday night. I've had to wait all day to do this because it's been so fucking hot here in Finland. Although not as hot as I hear it was in Seattle. It was like 115 for like 5 days straight in Seattle, which is like 40, 45 degrees for all you Euros. Having a little beer, might have a long drink before this ends, although I got about 57 minutes on the camera battery and my, what the hell is it called? Power adapter for my European to American thing is all messed up. And so computer's charging now. This isn't important. I'll just shut the hell up and get going. But I was at the store before I did this. And the last 2 nights I've been going to the little market by my house that's open till midnight just to get some, honestly, sparkling water. I hate the fact that that's what I'm going to get, basically. And I get that. And the last 2 nights I've been there, there's been either the person in front of me or the person behind me in line has been like a 20-something-year-old dude. And they're buying energy drinks at midnight. And so I don't know what people are doing at midnight drinking energy drinks. I know the sun doesn't really go down and it's always light, but when the fuck are these people sleeping? And I'm just thinking to myself, an energy drink and it's 11:58 right now. What absolute waste of time is this guy going to do? Probably not as much of a waste of time as me talking to this camera right now. Who knows? Who am I to judge? But yeah, that one got me, man. That one really got me. Back to the website though, real quick. And speaking of like on the idea of living for a living, I saw this video on TikTok that I'm going to share right now that I just felt was kind of interesting, and it's bred a few ideas. It's kind of what living for a living stemmed from one way or another. So let's play that.
People get so attached to them. I'm me. I do this. I do things. But the only way you can even describe yourself is by what you do. I'm a teacher. Well, I'm a this. I work out. All you can do, if you ask somebody who they are, all they'll do is tell you what they do. They'll tell you things that they do. That's not describing what you are.
Yeah.
And when you start to meditate, you'll realize what you are. And it's none of those things. You are the consciousness that inhabits this body, this spacesuit that's on this rock flying through space. You're the entire universe packaged into this. And that's why so many people are depressed. So many people feel like they don't belong in the universe. But just some simple methods like grounding and meditation, like their ego wants to push it away and say, I don't need it, but you do. And you will get so much relief.
Yeah. And so if you don't know, I've said it before on here, but this seems like a good time to rehash this idea. And I've explained it a lot over the last few weeks talking to people about the brand, is it seems to be on a little bit of a parabola in terms of growth. Is Living for a Living all stemmed from being back home after my first 1 or 2 years in Europe playing ball, and just having people ask that age-old question of, hey, what do you do for a living? And people still ask it now, you know. You talk to somebody on Tinder, you talk to somebody in person, whatever it may be, eventually you get the, what do you do for a living? And sometimes it comes very genuinely and curiously. But when I was back in Seattle, at the time that I was there, guys just kind of graduating, a lot of kind of tech money, new people into the real world, quote unquote, and meeting people at parties. It normally came from someone that was doing it in what I interpreted as a fairly condescending fashion, saying, oh, what do you do for a living? And it was just kind of their way of asking so that you would then ask what they do, so they could tell you that they make $100,000 a year and talk about their Rolex and how much their tie cost. And I mean, dude, I've seen it all in the short amount of time when I would be back home. And so one night I was just tired of it. I had had enough of the question and to drink. And I responded to the guy who was super condescending. Like, bro, I'm fucking living for a living. What do you do? And just kind of threw it right back in his face. And all I can really remember was just the like look of, whoa, like shock or awe or disbelief, or that's again how I viewed it. And I was like, oh, there's something to this. Like what I just said struck a nerve, but also like gave some clarity. And someone around me like heard it and was like, oh shit. And so I put that as like the first line of my Instagram bio, which is very important nowadays, you know. And I think my username still at the time was like Joey B or something like that. And throughout time, people would say, dude, living for a living is a really cool like first line of the bio. You know, it's funny what this like world has become to, you know. And so I started doing the vlogs, and I called them the Living for a Living vlogs. And I was like, I'm going to do a podcast called Living for a Living. And then I was finally like, dude, that's the brand. That's what we got to change. So I can remember like the day I changed the Instagram handle to Living for a Living. And I was shocked that nobody had ever had it or anything like that. And then I pretty quickly then moved down to Florida. This was like January 2019. And I was meeting and working out with these like NFL guys or NFL hopeful guys hoping to get drafted. And almost all of them, you know, we'd meet, we'd talk, we'd be cool, we work out, and then I'd follow them, or, you know, or something like that. I'd like some of their pictures, and then they'd follow me, and then the next day back in, almost, not all, but a high percentage would come in and be like, hey, what's up, living for a living? And I was like, damn, like people really resonate with this shit. And I think it's just this idea that has gotten lost over time. And that's why I brought this video up. I know I just rambled for 15 minutes or whatever the hell it was after that. But people then associate their identity to a specific thing that they do or have done in the past. And I see this so much on TikTok too, with people being like a fitness person or being an ex-addict, or what are some of the other ones on here? Like, oh yeah, the newest one that I've noticed is people that have ADD or ADHD, and they make all their content and all their stuff online around this thing, whether it be fitness, ADHD, being an addict, whatever it is. And I get it too, because that's also the way to kind of break in to social media. And I'm guilty of it myself, because I post a lot of shit about Finland, and I'm like the guy that kind of talks shit about Finland on TikTok. Even though I post other things, those are the ones that get all the recognition and get people to recognize me, I guess. And so I guess I'm being a bit hypocritical. But I don't ever think of myself as the guy who talks about I'm just the guy who fucking speaks his mind. In my mind. That's how I and once I did the living for a living thing, I had the quarterback OC, it's interesting to look at people's Instagram bios nowadays, because you can just see very clearly like how people identify. And I noticed this a long while ago, and that's eventually why I changed my thing to human being, and everything else is secondary. Because like this video that we watched, it resonated with me as like, dude, I'm just a fucking human being, and that's all I am. And that's really what I want to be known for, is being a nice, generous, honest, caring, straightforward human being. And then if you know me as a football player, if you know me as a friend, if you know me as the guy who talks shit about Finland on TikTok, if you know me as the asshole down the street, whatever you know me as, that's secondary to being a human being. And I have to admit, ever since I started doing that and having that mindset of this is what I am first, whatever those other labels are, those are all very secondary. And those are after human being. It's made life a little bit easier in one way or another. I've been pretty proud of myself, to be honest, for a multitude of reasons. But what I'm mainly speaking on right now is shit doesn't bother me in the way that it used to bother me. With football and stuff, although shit, I'll get into it this weekend. Referees still will bother me sometimes because they say some of the dumbest shit ever. But I still don't let it, it might bother me in the moment, but then I used to let it just eat at me. And I'd be constantly thinking about what this referee was thinking or doing, or he's really out to get me, or, anything like that. Football, if a play went bad, if I fuck up a play, or if someone fucks it up, or we don't know what we're doing, or whatever it may be, that shit would just eat at me. And I'm not perfect. It'll still eat at me sometimes, but just being like, well, it is what it is. The timing's right. It is how it should be. And me fucking that throw up, me missing that read, him dropping that ball, us making this call, the ref missing that thing, that's how it should be. And that's how it needs to be in order for the things to carry forward. But a big reason of that, to try and wrap this all together, is then not thinking of myself as this football player or the coach or whatever it may be, like me being this thing, because it used to always bug me if something got fucked up like that, because then my identity of this football player or this quarterback OC was getting tainted because this guy dropped the pass, or he didn't know what he was doing, or the ref made a bad call, or whatever. And now it's just like, dude, if any of that shit happens, I'm not stoked about it in the moment, I guess. But it hasn't had any effect on me as a human being. The last thing about the weird online and identity stuff, whether it be talking about addiction or ADHD or whatever I made it into. If it's a good thing, then, like fitness, I guess it's going to further you down that fitness road, and that's good. But when it's something where you're talking about being an ex-addict or being ADHD, and this is what I think the most of the ADHD, where you're saying, I have it and I'm living with it, and is all you're doing then is putting more and more energy onto it and hyper focusing on it. And so all it's going to then do is continually manifest because you're constantly putting energy towards it. And I'm not saying it's not a real thing. I do believe ADHD is a real thing, even though like the godfather of science around it has said it was a made up disease. It doesn't necessarily mean it's made up. It's just like overdiagnosed is what he meant in context, because it's a way to give kids drugs basically, which is a popular thing nowadays. And so it's just, but even with like the addict stuff is, yeah, acknowledging it and talking about it is good. But then if you make it your identity as like online, I'm an ex-addict, it's going to be hard to get into normal life, I think. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. This is just me speaking from how I know energy in my own sphere, in my own world, where I just know whatever you put your energy towards, put your mind towards, that shit is going to continually come up one way or another. And so, whether you complain about something or dislike something, mainly I notice it like the disliking thing. And you see it really a lot with the political parties in the United States, where they've like totally flip-flopped. The Republicans used to be the ones, it seemed like, trying to kind of limit speech and limit people from what they could do in certain regards. With abortion, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't. And Democrats were constantly saying, oh, well, that's bad and they're doing this, and always talking that way. And now it's like totally flip-flop. Now the Republicans are all about freedom, and the Democrats are the ones about like controlling. And maybe that I didn't explain that very well, but I hope you get what I mean. Same way, people have always talked about the US and China being this very controlling country, communism, and doesn't let people do anything, and very censored. And now you look at the US, and I mean, we are incredibly censored. I mean, 5 months ago, you couldn't say that maybe the Wuhan lab leaked the virus without getting censored. And nowadays, that's pretty much the accepted theory. There's some weird stuff. There's people all over YouTube getting demonetized and things for talking about alternatives to the vaccine or, other measures of stuff. And it's just, it's interesting when you look at it. But it doesn't surprise me at all, because we'd focused so long, and the powers to be had focused on, well, China doesn't allow Facebook and this and that, and now that's what fucking happens. And so that was a long roundabout thing. I think we're 20 minutes in, so I appreciate you listening. I didn't know I was going to go exactly that way, but I needed to get that out. I was supposed to get that out. It is as it should be. But let's see. Getting into this weekend. Let's see here. What do we got? Yeah, a lot of shit kind of happened this weekend. I realized also, talking about this online stuff and kind of staying on this on a slightly different side street, is people take the online stuff so fucking seriously. And this happened maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. I just forgot to talk about it over the last couple weeks. but it really rang true as I was talking about this identity stuff and like kind of writing some things down. Is I met a dude out at the bar. This was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. And two like 20-year-old guys, the normal thing now, came up to me. Hey, dude, I love your TikToks. Blah, blah, blah. They're pretty drunk. Go figure. And we get to talking and yeah. Like, and I'm sitting there like with a girl, a couple friends and stuff, like in my own little bubble. And they just sit down right there next to me, totally oblivious to everybody else that's around and just having this conversation with me. And it was cool. But at one point, the one kid was like, dude, I like your stuff, but you had this one video that talked about teenagers in the gyms here and the fact that they don't work hard and they don't sweat. And I'm 19. And first I was like, yeah, bro, wherever I go, that's how it is. He was like, well, I'm 19. And he pulls out his phone and starts showing me of like pictures of him flexing in the mirrors. Like hitting it. And he's like, so I'm 19. So what do you think about that? And I was like, dude, I mean, you understand I'm not talking about every single person, right? And mind you, this video was from like 5 months ago. And so I realized in that moment, I was like, holy shit. Like, this dude has been carrying this idea, and maybe it's not in his mind constantly, but been carrying this idea of my stupid video with him for like 5 months. And it's just in one way, shape, or form been just eating at him. And he couldn't get over it. And every time we'd start talking about something else, he'd bring it back to this. And he was pretty drunk. But just that like shows where if you're so drunk, you can't even remember it. But that was just like what he was stuck on. And I was like, oh my God, people really take this shit seriously. Like really, especially that probably 14 to 19 age range. I'm so glad that as an old man, I didn't grow up with this ticky-tacky shit. We had good old MySpace. MySpace taught you to code. Biggest drama in MySpace back in the day was who was in your top 8. And if you left someone out of the top 8, boy, that's where some drama could start. You had to think about what song you wanted on your profile. And then other than that, life was pretty easy. But yeah, MySpace taught you to code. It was great. Now I'm with seeing just that little sliver of a guy, 19-year-old kid, that hung up over a video that I posted 5 months ago. Knowing, and the dude obviously had worked hard. And that's what I told him. I was like, bro, the video isn't about you then. Why are you tripping on it? Obviously you work hard. The video's not about you. Let it go. But he just couldn't. And so I just got to believe in the big picture. He's not the only person like that not regarding a video of mine, but just regarding anything, whether it be talking about any problem that exists nowadays, which it seems that problems get invented out of thin air because life is pretty fucking good overall. So no, that was a interesting one. So yeah, moving on. But let's see. This weekend, getting into it, what happened? We had the 4th of July. We had our game number 2. I got to look really cool this weekend. A lot of stuff happened, actually, now that I think about it. But first, I guess let's get into a little game number 2 football stuff. as I've just been rambling on about ideas and theories and those kind of things. But yeah, we had our second game, first home game here in Kuopio, and it was pretty dope. Got to do my first little interview on Ruutu, which is like the TV show or TV channel that airs our football games here. The Finnish broadcasting setup here is really impressive with the pregame show, halftime interviews, highlights, all that stuff that they do. It's super professional, and it's cool in that way. And I answered with some very generic football answers, taking it a day at a time, worrying about ourselves, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, the game, home game, we jumped out to a 10-0 or maybe 17-0. 17-7 at least. At halftime, I think, yeah, 17-7 lead. And then they returned the kickoff for a touchdown in the second half. So 17-14. Forget exactly what. I think we were going down to score. Maybe they score. I don't know. We sputtered a little bit in the second half. At one point, we were getting it all the way down. We had it down on like the 5. I had probably one of my sickest, like most athletic plays of my life where we ran triple option and I pulled it and then pitched with my left hand off the pitch man. And that went for like 60. And then next play, their corner, who's a pretty cool dude, American guy, totally just guessed and like disregarded guarding our best receiver to jump a route, and somehow in like a Madden glitch, the ball ended up in his hands. I thought he was just going to like fuck our receiver up and on an out route, and he kind of did, but then somehow the ball ended up in his arms and he ran it back for touchdown. So that was like a crazy 14-point swing basically, because I think we were going to score there and then they score. And so basically we gave the crowd an amazing game is all I can say. We ended up having 500 yards of total offense, ran for 300, threw for 200. Final score was 38 to 21, I believe, or 38-28, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. But we had that. They had a defensive touchdown. They had a special teams touchdown. I think they won the turnover battle. They definitely won the penalty battle. The refs did not help us out much from my point of view. I was told the weirdest thing that's happened so far this year here is the refs sometimes don't blow the whistle to end the play. Like they just let the play end by the guy getting tackled. And in some instances, that's okay, I guess. But in a lot of them, I mean, we're taught from a young age, you play to the whistle. In every sport, that's kind of what you're taught. Any sport that has a whistle, at least. And here, they're just not blowing the whistle at the end of plays, which in one way is okay. But then if you're going to call a guy for unnecessary roughness after the play ends, it's kind of a in-between call, because how does he know for sure the play is over? The whistle is to determine that the play is over. And I know I'm someone, I hate to be a guy complaining about refereeing right now, because it's not going to do anything. But it's just a unique thing that I've never seen before in my life, of anywhere, any age group, any country, anything. And so I'm like kind of getting on a ref or two saying, hey, you guys need to like blow the whistle, mainly for safety too. Because when guys get kind of held up, and that's where weird leg injuries happen, and, you know, guys hit each other after the play. Like it's safety. That's the refereeing is part of controlling the game, and that's controlling when the play ends, when the play starts, yada, yada, yada. And I was told this weekend by one of them that the play ends when the play ends. And I said, okay, is this a new rule? Because I've never heard that one. That is a brand new one to me. And in all my years, I'm not saying I'm the most experienced guy in the world. I've played quite a few games, though, throughout my career in quite a few different places. I have never heard the play ends when the play ends. But hey, I guess that is kind of just along the lines of it is what it is. So I can't be too mad about it. That was just super, super comical to me. And dude, it was hot this weekend too. Like, I think it was about 30 degrees for our game, which for my American folk is times 2 plus 32, a little over 90. It was warm. The old Finnish boys aren't ready for that. And anybody living in Finland, not just, I wasn't ready for that. But I guess I'm doing pretty good with like hot weather nowadays. I'm actually got a pretty damn good tan for living in Finland for the last 6 months. Yeah, I'm actually really impressed with my tan right now. It's kind of like an Orlando through January tan. But yeah, at one point this game, we were losing by like 10 or 14. I'm not exactly sure. And I'm not trying to sound cool when I say this at all. It's just we have a good group of dudes, and I just never had any doubt that we were going to lose. So much so that on 1 3rd and long, I think it was like 3rd and 11, we just got to delay a game. I had just messed up like the call off my wristband. Had to call a timeout. So it's like we tried to call a play like 3 different times or 2 different times and failed. And then finally we call the timeout. I get the right call. I read it right. And as I go into the huddle to like call it for the 3rd time, I just walk in. I'm like, all right, guys, well, 3rd time's a charm, I guess. And literally everyone in the huddle just started kind of chuckling. And we break the huddle, and it ends up going for like 40 yards or something. And like looking back, it was probably one of the biggest plays of the game. Now looking back with momentum shift, if we have to punt there and they go score, who knows? You know, you never know. It's always, but you can always kind of break games down to like 3 or 4 plays. And that was for sure one of the 4. And it's just ironic to me, but super cool that in that moment, we make a little joke and just everybody in the huddle's like, and then we just go execute. And I think that says a lot about our team. And that's a cool thing. So no, we go back to Vasa this weekend. We got a rough stretch in a way. Well, not that rough, but 5 games in the month of July because of the scheduling or the way that the calendar works. There's 5 weekends in July this year. So we already got 1. We go to Vasa. Then we're home for 2 games. Then we go to Helsinki, play the Roosters, and then we have a bye week. But as the old adage says, you got to take one day at a time, 1 game at a time, 1 play at a time. And so kind of crazy to go back to Vasa again, but we'll see how that goes. I think as long as we're, again, just to add in some more cliche adages about sports, the only team that can beat us is ourselves, I think. If we execute and play our game the right way, we got a lot of talent and some good coaching that I think we can handle business as long as we stay out of our own way. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah. What else? 4th of July was this weekend, which, surprise, surprise, in Europe is not a holiday. I don't know why. Those racist motherfuckers. They're completely prejudiced towards the 4th of July. I don't know why everyone doesn't celebrate it. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't understand. No, but I don't know. I think 4th of July, it's not the worst holiday, but it's basically like the summer version of New Year's Eve, where everyone's obsessed with fireworks. And I don't understand why, because as long as I have lived for now 30 years, fireworks have been the fucking same for the entire time. And so if you're a person that's like, oh, we got to go watch the firework and see the fireworks show, you have a low IQ, because it's the same shit every year. You saw whatever the show was for New Year's Eve is the same one for 4th of July. It's the same fucking and some lights. That's all it is. And so fireworks to me are just dumb as fuck. I don't get the point of them. It's just to blow the hands off of stupid motherfuckers, scares animals. So that's how I feel about that. I will say 4th of July is probably better than New Year's Eve, although both are just incredibly overhyped holidays that normally lead to disappointment in one way or another. Someone always gets way too drunk. Someone always does some stupid shit. To go places is always way overpriced. And I mean, nowadays in the US, with all our fucking politically correct bullshit, people are always constantly talking about, well, the Independence Day, it's a mark of a racist start of a country and slavery. It's like, shut the fuck up. Oh my God. Like, nobody cares. I mean, we care, but to the people that complain about that stuff, enjoy your day fucking off. Have a good day with your friends and family. Drink some beer, grill some burgers, maybe a hot dog or two, and shut up with this fake woke activism stuff that the only reason that you're saying it is because you read some fucking Instagram post about it the day before and saw some LeBron James athlete tweet about it the day of. And so you're just parroting whatever the authority that you believe in is. It's like, yeah, the country was founded on some bullshit at times. It's also the country that a lot of people are trying to get into. Nobody is fleeing out of the U.S. That's like the most wild thing to me, is even the people that hate the United States and hate living in the United States aren't leaving. You know the difference between all the other like countries where people are scared to live there, truly scared, and need to get out of there for political asylum and those kind of things, is they actually fucking leave. I'm not a big fan of the American way, or the checklist system that we have. I'm not choosing to want to live outside of the U.S. because of our history that's founded on blah blah, like that has no effect on me today. I'm being me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I don't personally like the materialism and the checklist lifestyle of go to college, get in an incredible amount of debt, work for 50 years, hating your job, buy a house, get a mortgage, basically enslaves you to that house or something around those lines, marry, get kids, yada, 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 get unhappy, get divorced, blah, that checklist kind of thing. So I don't prefer to live there because of those things, not because of these other things that all these fake ass woke activists parade around talking about. And so, yeah, I think that's what I needed to get out of my system. Back to Saturday. After the game, went out for a little bit, and I got to look fucking cool this weekend. So I met up with, I don't know what to call her. I guess in the last episode I called her my girl, which is like kind of We don't call each other boyfriend, girlfriend. When we're together, we kind of act that way, but not really the label that we're putting on. So I don't really know what to say, but met up with this girl and 2 of her friends that are good looking themselves. And so it was me and 3 hot girls. And we're like walking. There's kind of one main street with all the bars here in Kuopio, walking down that street. And like those 3 would turn heads themselves. But then here I am, fucking Mr. Tik Tok, motherfucker. And literally as I'm walking down the street of the bars, which has all these patios on it of people drinking, get like this one girl to yell, "You're the guy from TikTok!" Like, and I kind of ignored it the first time because I didn't want to, I don't know. And she just kept yelling it. I finally like, "Hi, yeah, it's me. Bye." And so then show up. Some of my teammates we're chilling in the park, drinking a little bit. Show up there. And that's actually a weird thing I've noticed here about Finland too, is when there's a get together, like a big get together, the sexes are always separated. It's always like the guys are at one bench in one area, and then the girls are over in the grass on the blanket in another place. You know, there's like not this like intermingling amongst groups. Like even if the girls and the guys know each other, they very rarely are all together in one way or another. It's what I've noticed. Or in like Portugal and Spain and Poland, everywhere else I've been, it hasn't really been like that. Like if you go out with a group, it can be kind of very mixed. But here I've noticed a few times I've gone out, even if you go out with guys and girls that all know each other, it then tends to be one group of girls and then one group of guys. And so that's how it was at the park. And then after a little while at the park, we went to the bar Aptekari, which is kind of like the cool bar club. It has a rooftop that's super sick, good view, kind of expensive drinks. There's always a little bit of a line to get in. And so there was a line this time. And throughout the months of myself living here, I like meeting people. I like learning people's names. I'm good at it. Also, if you say that you suck at learning people's names, that's just you copying out. You can learn people's names. It's not that hard. And so I've learned the doorman's name, who's normally there. And so anytime I go, and normally I wait in line, there's been 1 or 2 times where the line's been crazy long, and we'll pay a little bit to get in. Now that we're playing and we're kind of winning and stuff like that, trying to kind of see if we can flex that muscle. And so anyway, the line, I don't know, it was probably like 10 or 15 minutes long. And I just walk up to the front door. I go, "Hey, Kimo, what's up?" He goes, "Hey, Joey, how you doing?" I go, "Good." I go, "Is it possible me and 3 hot girls get in without waiting in line?" And he goes, "You know the system?" I said, "Yeah." I go, "I don't have any cash on me, though." He said, "Well, just get it next time. Just worry about it later." I said, "All right, cool." So then I got to go back to the 3 hot girls and say, "Hey, come on." Walk right in, do a little handshake with my guy Kimo, and we're all in. And like all 3 of the girls are from Kuopio. And they're like, "How the hell is the guy who's only been here 6 months able to get us in without waiting in line when we've lived here for..." I went, "Sorry." But I got to feel super fucking cool about that. And then I tried it on to then get into like the top floor, like the rooftop. I tried it with the guy there who I didn't know. He was new. And there was a little bit of a line for that. And so I walked up and said, "Hey, man." And it's worked before. It depends on who it is. I said, "Hey, man, this has worked before." Not to sound like a douche, but I play for the Steelers, and so sometimes we don't have to wait in line to get up here. He said, no, no. And he like answered real like he was proud to tell me no. No, you got to wait in line. I said, oh, okay, no worries. So waited in line, got up, and just I was kind of feeling myself. I'm not going to lie. And so as I'm walking past him the second time, I said, hey, man, what's your name? And you could tell like he's like, should I tell him his name? But like didn't want to tell me. And I was like, I know you guys can tell me your name because I know a few other guys that works there's name. He goes, yeah, I can, but I don't want to. I said, oh, okay, no worries. Well, I'm Joey. Nice to meet you. And I could just see the look of his face like, all right, who the fuck is that guy? You know, just absolutely nothing's going to come from it, but it gave me a chuckle for the rest of the night, and it gave me a little chuckle telling that story right there. But then being with this group of girls, and this happened over Midsummer Week also, where I was getting to talk to a friend of a friend who's a good-looking girl herself, and just this like inside look to a hot girl's mind has just been so. I've learned so much in like 2 weeks, and I'm not sure how much I want to fully explain. But like as we were walking, me and the 3 girls to the bar and stuff, and the one of them had just met me and didn't know anything about TikTok stuff, which like rightfully so. I don't think it's a big deal at all myself. I think it's pretty comical. But she's like, wait, do people think we're with him? Like we're his fan? Because people should think like he's with us. That, you know, he's lucky to be with us. And just that idea of like the flip, you know, like weird power dynamic is just a funny thing. And then the thing that I've learned with, I guess, girls in general, but especially like hot girls who normally get a lot of attention, is the way to then get through to them. And they won't like admit this, or they won't let it really be known unless it's behind closed doors. But you gotta care less than they do. And you can't be a simp for the super hot girls that have some like self-worth and some attitude. You gotta have that exact same energy, has to be matched. And so my example of this is this one girl that I know was kind of feeling this one guy that I know, and the night went a certain way, and ultimately the guy left without really saying bye to the girl. And I learned throughout the night that like that fucked with her, because she's like, I'm the one who should be leaving, and I'm, you know, like, how are you not going to say bye to me? And because of that, it was like he had the upper hand in this weird kind of power dynamics. And I'm not saying like play games with people, because I think games are kind of stupid, but at the same time, there is some bit of courtship, and there is always like a little bit of chase when it comes to males and females and dating and sex and that kind of stuff. And so I don't know, it's just something I've picked up on over the last couple weeks, getting to kind of be in the circle that of girls that I'm only in because I'm not seen as a threat, I guess. And let's see, to end it off, it was super fun. Well, while we were at the bar, ended up having a conversation with a guy that I've known for a little bit of time here, but I never really got to know that well. Like, we haven't talked at that much length. And it was just, it took me by surprise because what I know of him, and I'm not going to give too many details of him because I don't want to like blow his cover or whatever. But just an ultimate, like, don't judge a book by its cover kind of situation. Because this guy, due to how he kind of is in normal everyday life with what he does for work, all these things, I just kind of assumed he was a certain way. And we got to talking about a couple subjects, which when I leave the country of Finland, I'll probably talk a little bit more at length about. So to those longtime listeners, you know what I'm talking about. And we got onto that topic, and I was thinking he was asking me from like a curious standpoint, just him being curious. And because I knew a little bit and I had talked about stuff already, and it was known that I'd talked about it. And so he's just wanted to ask questions and like almost was treating me as like a zoo animal in a way, you know, like getting responses because just curious to hear about this. Like, I didn't think he knew anything about it when I first started talking about it. And then ultimately at some point that idea got shifted on its head, and he probably ended up having more stories than I did. And that was really cool. I love, you know, I'm a big proponent of don't judge a book by its cover. You know, here I am, this guy that's quote unquote a professional athlete that looks more like a washed up surfer. And so I love when I can get to like fuck with people's minds in that way. And same thing, like, you know, I'm pretty tattooed on my body, but have nothing visible on my arms or neck or anything like that. And so a lot of times it's really fun for people to get to know me for a while, non-tattooed, and then at some point, you know, take my shirt off, whether we go swimming or in the locker room or whatever. It's actually a really fun one with girls who don't expect it. It's like, but like, and then people kind of almost like look at you differently. Like, oh, you got all these tattoos. I didn't think you had that at all. You're not exactly what I've been thinking of you, are you? And just that like little game, you know, it's not exactly a game, but that thing of shifting someone's perception really quick about how they see somebody. I try to always keep that in the back of my mind when I'm talking with people and I'm meeting people. But I think it's human nature to do that stuff. You know, our brains want to put things into categories and put people into categories so that, you know, we can remember them easier. And I think it's human nature, like I said. And so I love when I get that thing. And I love when it happens to me because, again, I see it happening with a lot of other people. When in regards to myself, I love when I get my perception flipped upside down by somebody. And that happened this weekend. So I'm super grateful for that. On the same thing of tattoos, like I've noticed that a lot of girls, now that I've dated a little bit, and I guess guys too with tattoos, that I more and more, you see someone super tatted, you know, face tats, whatever, anything like that. And it kind of comes off as a hard shell or, you know, a badass kind of thing or, you know, something like that. And normally those people end up, once you get to know them, being incredibly soft at their core. Not soft in a bad way, but just sensitive. And I've also noticed it a little bit in my very short experience around kind of the goth or metal kind of community, where people wear all these black clothes and certain makeup and spikes and, again, tattoos and whatever it may be, to kind of give off this like hard, sad or appearance or whatever it may be. And inside, it's not like that. It's just to protect this soft thing that they have inside them. You know, this hard shell. It's like a turtle. Hard thing to protect the softness inside. And so, yeah. But I think that about wraps it up. Didn't get any calls this week. If you want to call in, that'd be great. If not, go fuck myself, right? And to all the people who listened to the very end, if you'd like a little discount code, 10% off on the website on some merch, that discount is LivingFam, all lowercase. So I would be super grateful. Anything that gets purchased on the site, going towards the van life, not going to be spent on any dumb shit. I think that's about it. All right. Peace and much love. Holla.
Tell me, baby.
Yeah.
What's that story? I've been thinking about you lately.
Yeah, come on.
Tell me, darling.
What else?
You're a star girl.
What else?
How the fuck do you not know the deal?
What else?
I've been thinking about you lately. And
What
it's
else?
got me going crazy.
What else?
I'm playing for you, baby.
What else?
Listen up. Listen up, got me thinking about you, baby. And it's happening all the time. So I'm playing for you, darling. Now listen up, listen up.
Listen up.